It is an absolute delight to be sat back here again, making brand new episodes of the journal. Been a little bit busy of late, trying to get 2021 Wipe online, which you can now find over on TheJackSmit.com. The link is, of course, in the description of this video. Having to deal with the joy and torture of being a Sail fan. But saying that, when tackles like this happen literally just meters from where you sat, you can't help but grin. Well in, Rafi. Well in. As well as making my way through the backlog of all of the great movies that have been coming out over the last couple of months. But one of the most requested journals that we've had from you guys, the people who watch it, the people who I get to spend time with in the industry, is a behind-the-scenes look into a review day. But given COVID, it really hasn't been that interesting considering, well, work from home's been a big thing. Something which has been the case over the last couple of years of TheJackSmit.com. In fact, since the very start of TheJackSmit.com, we predominantly work from home in the first place. But when we're on site doing the reviews themselves, well, it's always a hell of an experience, which we've covered very briefly in an episode we made all the way back in Series 1. I wasn't happy with that episode though. So, 4 years on, with all the added production values I've learned over the years, let's do this properly. A lot of work goes into a review day, and the long process begins the night before I actually go on site, or in a marathon's case, on the Monday, with the preparation of the notes. This notepad is a critic's best friend for the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Now, back in the day, this notepad was a little bit smaller, an A5 Marvel notepad to be precise. Back in August of 2021, we moved up to A4, purely to allow a more comprehensive way of taking the important points down when you're in a darkened cinema screen. It's also partly because the voice of rugby, BT Sport commentator Nick Mullins, once tweeted a photo of a similar A4 setup that he uses for the live games that he commentates on. It's actually way more efficient doing it this way. So let's find a review. So here we are, Spider-Man No Way Home. The move to A4 afforded us a few extra luxuries. For example, we have the BBFC info, the runtime, director, writers, director photography, score, cast, and so any other details that might be of relevance. And the core format has remained the absolute same over the last 8 years. We call it the 9 bullet point approach. Free for the direction, free for the cast, free for any other points, because you don't want to bog yourself down taking too many notes during a film, especially if it's a really bloody good one. And a lot of you will be thinking, what are these free little times up here? Well, when I'm at the main cinema that I go to, I'm able to get my hands on the adverts, the feature, and the end, which is really beneficial on something like a marathon when you've got to do 2 free films back to back and you have to time it in a way that you don't miss anything at the other screens that you're in. And for Odeon Screen Unseen, not only do I have all of that info, but I also have written down the 4 clues that they have for each film, which means I can literally explain what it'll be in the foyer once me and my team have nailed down what it'll be, which is brilliant when you're trying to sell something like Petite Maman to customers, which was the last Screen Unseen. Handily our film of the year. Have we notched it on camera yet? I think we have. It might seem like overkill, but on those days when we're doing multi-film sessions, just like the old days, it does come in very handy indeed. On top of all of that, I also have in the book the box office notes for the week. As one thing you learn when you go into a cinema as often as I do is that the staff start recognising you very quickly and they want to pick your brains about your knowledge of the industry. 18 years in that place has that effect on the guys behind the tills. And speaking of that place, well, I think it's about time we got on site. For those of you who are new around here, we use 3 cinemas in particular to do the reviews. The main one is, of course, the legendary Vue Cinema in Preston, which 5 years ago had a multi-million-pound refurbishment, much in a similar way to how a major flagship in Manchester is currently having fully recliner seats put in. On top of that, we also use Odeon down at the docks and a reel in Chorley as well, just to get that little bit of variety within the cinema industry that we talk about. God, it is cold here today, but we're here for a very good reason. It's quite apt we're here today of all days because all the COVID restrictions in England lift. Well, they lifted at midnight last night. Isolation's gone, masks have gone. Quite a fitting day to come back to a place you've called home for 18 years, and it's good to be able to actually properly film here again. We've not been able to do this as we would have liked since the 2019 marathon. It's all been very restricted since then. Afternoon, old friend. Now, a lot of you'll be thinking, why do you get here 2 hours early for a film? The answer's quite simple. You get an idea how busy it is. You don't want to be going into a comedy film with a dead audience. Learn that the hard way with I Feel Pretty. I mean, with those big comedy films and the superhero films, for example, a good audience is key to the reaction. You don't want to have an audience let you down with a dry reaction. Just look at how the Americans reacted to No Way Home, for example. And sure, while we don't get that kind of thing here in England, it's good to have that place rocking as much as we can with relevant government legislation in place about capacity limits. Thank God we're over that now. Another reason why we end up here 2 hours for a film is catch up with a bunch of miscreants who I call the great men and women of Vue Preston. And just why are very good cinema staff important to what we do on site? Allow us to enlighten you with a clip from earlier on this series. They are always the beacon within a multiplex or independent cinema. They're literally the first people you see as you go in and the last people you see as you leave. The staff are a very important element of the experience that are very frequently underlooked and underappreciated by the higher-ups. They play a valuable role in not just bringing cinema to the community, but in general, bringing cinema closer. They are the beacons of a good day or a bad day at the office. Importantly, you've got to have staff who give a damn. It's easy to tell who knows their stuff and who is there just for the comp. But you have to have staff who are knowledgeable about the industry, who give a damn about projection, who know the product that are coming in, ideally watching all of the product. Then, about 10 minutes before the actual film starts, the most important bit of the day. Now, there's a bit of a friendly rivalry when it comes to the making of the Earl Grey, because I go to a lot of cinemas, and each site has got its own unique problems. As it currently stands, Odeon win in this regard because they have a full on-site Costa coffee out there, and it's the biggest cup of tea in Preston. Vue is a bit more reliable now that they sorted the machine out. Thank you, management team. And as for real, well, £2.50 for the smallest cup of tea in the game. Don't know what else to say about that. And with that, it's time for me to get to work. Now, usually at this point after a film, I'd be discussing it with staff, but of course, because of COVID, I don't really go in for that anymore. Usually they'd all surround me and ask, especially at this site, what the film was like. Now, the last time I had a memorable discussion with staff post-film was when Tenet came out in 2020. And I remember very fondly trying to explain to a member of staff that it was indeed a Travis Scott song that was blaring out over the end credits. It's a miracle I could even talk over that. They were playing it that loud. And that's the best bit about a film. It's the discussion afterwards. It's the reason why when I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife with my very good friend and big boy filmmaker Ed Greenberg, we discussed for a while in the foyer afterwards the nostalgia of the movie, which ultimately benefited the review. Also, back in the day, those discussions with the staff members and all of the mates that I have acted like a dress rehearsal for what would become a very important radio show which would morph into a podcast. More on that very soon. Now, this is where the old running joke of my office comes in, because it really is at Vue. Back in the day when we were pumping out content from there pretty much every week non-stop, that sofa literally was my home. I would set up shop there for hours on end, laptop, charger, little USB mouse, and I would write the reviews on site and then run over to McDonald's and use their Wi-Fi to post it. They've still not added that after the refurb. It's something we still do for the Bonds, the Avengers and selected other blockbusters. But recently I found it a lot easier to wait about 4 or 5 hours before even attempting the write-up, because films are designed to get people talking. It's that post-film discussion that really makes the reviews come alive that little bit more. Because, let's be real, cinema has been and always will be a shared experience. COVID took that aspect away because of social distancing. But now most of the restrictions have lifted and cinemas are operating pretty much at full capacity around the UK. It is hard not to underestimate the impact of that shared experience and the discussions that you can have with fellow like-minded film nerds. You just have to look at the reaction that the BBC got when they announced that Kermode and Mayo were leaving their Radio 5 live show to understand the power of discussion. People love talking about films. It's a proper community, dare I say. And being able to talk about it with fellow like-minded nerds in Foyer, here on YouTube, and on social media is one of the best bits of the job. It's ultimately where cinema is being brought closer, not just by us critics, but by everyone. Word of mouth has arguably saved our industry post-COVID. But after a good few hours of discussing it on site, it's time to make the journey back home to write the review up. And by the time I get back here to Smit HQ, I already have all of the information I need, because on the bus home, I would have been on YouTube searching for a trailer, searching for a clip if we were reviewing it on Talking Smit About Film. The images would have been picked, and on top of that, the rating would have been decided and put on the Letterboxd page, because that is, believe it or not, the first way you can find out what I thought of a film. TheJackSmit on Letterboxd. Go on, you know you want to. And that is life on the Foyer Frontline. Thanks for watching the journal. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for a brand new episode.
The sharks are circling, the water's getting clearer. Smiling with his 6 rows, the megalodon are nearer. They go out in schools, dream they are supreme. Casting souls our way, go on, we'll cast you downstream.
This is a proud moment.
This year on the journal, we're taking things a little bit more back to basics.
If you want serial killing leprechauns, you just have to watch London Irish every Sunday.
We're moving away from monthly releases and dropping episodes as and when they're ready. It's quality over quantity.
What a comeback story.
And we're even going to try and get back out on the road too. It's a big year for the journal, so hit subscribe, hit the bell button to stay notified, and get ready for brand new episodes.
They stop and stare, 100 eyes on you, and only just do those things that you do. And so the girl cries, but let's crack out the fanfare for the good times, try those dark